Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Uh, I hope I am audible. Okay, so let us start today's discussions. Okay, so we are in module number one. Okay, so we had started with the chapter number four. Okay, I hope the screen is you can see the PPT. Okay, fine. So we started with the requirements engineering. Okay. So the topics what actually I have given introduction regarding the two types of the requirements, namely we defined what is a requirement, correct? No? See, in the first few classes we discussed regarding the various what is various definitions of software engineering. Okay, we defined what is process, what are the different models, correct? Now having studied the different models, okay, now we are moving towards the requirement engineering process, correct? Now if you see the waterfall model, the first like the first activity generally called it as requirements analysis and specification, correct? No? So generally we call it as requirements engineering, correct? No? So uh, in the case of requirements engineering, what we are going to do, so we define what is a requirement. Okay, what is a requirement here? It can be a high level abstract statement to a detailed mathematical function, correct? No? So this is we defined what is a requirement there. What is requirement engineering is nothing but the process of establishing the services that the customer requires from the system and the constraints under which it operates, okay, and is developed, correct? So we are going to identify, or we are going to elicitate the requirements, correct? Now what is that process, we'll see in the today's class. Okay, so we define two types of requirements: user requirement and system requirements, correct? Now so both are same. Okay, so but one is very abstract, one is very detailed, correct? Now so user requirements as well as system requirements. I gave the examples of taking the case study of mental health care patient management system, correct? No user requirement, you can see the slide there. I hope you can see the screen. If it is not visible, please tell me. Okay, otherwise I assume that it is you are able to see the screen. Okay, so who are the readers of different types of the requirements, correct? No, say for example, starting from the client managers, end users, architects, software developers, you see the category of the users. Okay, so correct me, different types of the users require different level of requirements. Okay, now the major classification is called as functional and non-functional requirement. What is functional here? As the name tells, what is the function? Okay, what services the system has to provide? Okay, how the system has to react to the inputs, and how the system should behave in particular situation, correct? So this is purely related to the functioning of the system, correct? No, so when you give a particular input, what are the expected output? Okay, how the system has to behave in a particular situation, correct? No, what are the services the system has to provide? So this all comes under the category of the functional requirements. Okay, what about non-functional are generally related to the which are indirectly or related to the services delivered by the system. Okay, generally, okay, it is not about the function. Okay, this is about the other emergent system properties. Okay, for example, reliability is there, response time is there, or availability is there. See, this is all related to the performance, correct? No? So that is comes part of the non-functional requirement. Okay, so one more classification is there, we call it as domain requirements, which directly related to the constraints on the system from the domain of the operation, which domain you are dealing with. So from that also you get some requirements, correct? See, ultimately what we are doing here, we are analyzing the requirements. Before you develop the software, you need the collection, you need to collect the requirements, okay, for various categories of the users. As I told, maybe a A end user requirement may be different, a high level manager requirement may be different, correct? No, both are not same. So we need to clearly classify the requirements, correct? No, how we are going to classify, how we are going to specify, that we'll see in the coming slides. So the broad classification, please remember, functional versus non-functional requirements. Of course, the domain requirements. Okay, already I told functional requirements describe the functionality or the system services. Okay, so they should describe the system services. Whereas this is the example I gave, the functional requirement, correct? No, last class I told what is the functional requirement of a mental health care patient management system. Okay, so through the software, the user should be able to search the appointments. Okay, each staff, the system has to generate a report. Okay, who are expected to attend appointment. Okay, how to identify the staff member? So it's a 8-digit employee number, correct? No, but the problem I mentioned was that the requirement imprecision generally. So this is the thing we have to remember. Okay, imprecision is the in the requirement specification is the cause of many software engineering problems. Generally, the requirements collected are not precise. Why? Because the interpretation will be different. Okay, one person will interpret in one way, the another person will interpret in another way. So this leads to ambiguity. Correct? No. So I gave the example. Okay, requirements completeness and consistency. The requirement should be both complete and consistent. Okay, when I say complete means what? It should include all the descriptions. When I say consistent means what? There should not be contradictions in the descriptions of the system facility. Correct? No. In one, this one, it is interpreted in one way. In the another document, say if it is interpreted in another way, so that is not consistent. Correct? No? So, but again, the clause here is that generally it is impossible to produce a complete and consistent requirement document. Okay. I told about non-functional requirement also generally deals with reliability, response time, IO device capability. Okay. Now you see, okay, today's class will continue. Okay, the classification of non-functional requirements. You see, so many requirements are there. Okay, same diagram I have included whatever is in the it is there in the textbook. Okay, so we have you see the non-functional requirements. You have you see the classification: product requirement, organizational requirement, external requirement. Okay, when I say product requirement, what it means? These requirements specify or constrain the behavior of the software. Okay, say for example, see non-functional requirements, everything relates to the the performance generally. Okay, performance requirements: how fast the system will execute, how much memory it requires. Okay, reliability requirements, so this is say security requirements, so this is come under product requirement. What about organizational requirement? So they are broad system requirements generally derived from the policies, okay, and procedures in the customers and developers organization. Okay, this relates to the policies. Generally in an organization, we have a set of standards and policies to be followed, correct? No, so what are those policies? Okay, what are the corresponding requirements, okay, which will be derived from the policies? So this comes under the organizational requirement. And the final one, as you mentioned, it is see there external requirements. Okay, external requirement means what? Okay, this it will cover all the requirements that are derived from the factors external to the system. Okay, as the name tells. Okay, requirements which are external to the system. Okay, so generally regulatory requirements are there. Okay, say for example, bank has its own set of regulatory requirements, legislative requirements that has to be followed, okay, to ensure that the system operates within the law. So you can see that these are all the external requirements. Okay, okay, so you see that. Okay, product requirements, so we have under that okay, see ultimately see the product requirement, you see that. Okay, efficiency requirements are there, dependability requirements are there, security requirements are there. This is purely related to the product. Okay, Whereas on the organizational requirement, you see, okay, operational requirements and external requirements are regulatory requirements, ethical requirements, okay, legislative requirements, accounting requirements. See the classification, you see the top to bottom, okay, top down approach you see there, okay. So this is the collection of the non-functional requirements, okay, starting from the three major classification, namely product requirement, organizational requirements, external requirements. I hope I am audible and you are able to see the screen. Anyone please, put in the chat box. Okay, because sometimes because of the network connectivity, I will not be able to know. Okay, whether it is going live or not. So please inform if any discrepancy is there. Okay, fine. Let us continue. So, okay. So please remember this. Okay, very important. Okay. So let me go to the current slide. Okay. So functional requirements. Now it is the non-functional requirements. Okay. So three major categories: product requirements, organizational requirements, external requirements. Fine. Okay. Uh, Under that you can see so many types of the requirements you have, but what you have to remember is that the product requirements specify or constrain behavior of the software. The product requirements related to the behavior. When I say behavior, performance is there, dependability is there, efficiency is there, security is there, usability is there, space requirement is there, that is memory. So this all you see becomes part of the product requirement. The middle one is called organizational requirement. So generally derived from the policy and procedures in the customers as well as the developers organization. You see that classification of the organizational requirement, environmental requirement, operational requirement, development requirement. So these are all coming under the organizational requirement. The third category is external requirements. Requirements which are derived from the factors external to the system. Okay, regulatory requirement, ethical requirement, legislative requirement, accounting requirement, safety requirement. See, this is the complete classification of the non-functional requirement. I hope you got the point. Okay, what is requirement, what is requirement engineering, okay, what are the broad classification of the requirement, user requirement and system requirements. Fine. Then we discussed functional and non-functional requirements. Okay, I told the same thing what I told. Okay, non-functional requirements. Okay, performance requirements are there. Okay, so ultimately the non-functional requirements will affect the architecture of the system rather than the individual components. Okay, so already I gave this classification: product requirements, organizational requirements, external requirements. Okay, examples he has given, again case study with respect to the MHC patient management system. Okay, product requirement, let me read that one. Okay, so product requirement may be like this. Okay, the system shall be available to all the clinics during normal working hours. Okay, downtime within the normal working hours shall not exceed 5 seconds in any one day. So this is product requirement. Okay, remember this is a non-functional requirement with respect to the software. It tells that the software has to be available during normal working hours. What is the organizational requirement? The users of the system shall authenticate themselves using the health authority identity card. So this tells that the users has to authenticate using the health identity card. The external requirement says that okay, the system shall implement patient privacy provisions. Why? Because you see that the patient details has to be has to be maintained safely, correct? No, and that the privacy of the data is important. So this is an external requirement. So three classification. Okay, case study is of with respect to the MHC PMS, patient management, sorry, monitoring system. Okay, so the non-functional requirements may be very difficult to state precisely, and imprecise requirements may be difficult to verify. Okay, so generally the goal is general intention of the user, verifiable non-functional requirements. Okay, means what? There should be possible to, okay, measure. Okay, goals are held, I mean a statement using some measure. We are going to, I'm going to tell about some of the metrics for specifying non-functional requirements. How to measure this non-functional requirements, what are the metrics, okay, to test the non-functional requirements. Okay, so what are those? We'll tell that. Okay, so before that, okay, what is usability requirement? Okay, the system should be easy to use by medical staff and should be organized in such a way that user errors are minimized. Okay, medical staff shall be able to use all the system functions after 4 hours of training. After this training, the average number of errors made by experienced users shall not exceed 2 per hour of the system use. Okay, so it means what? So this is relates to the usability requirement. You remember, usability requirement is also one requirement out of the product requirements. Okay, system should be easy to use. Okay, errors should be minimized. Correct. So this is the one example of usability requirement. Okay, now coming to the metrics I told. Okay, uh, we should uh, we should write non-functional requirements so quantitatively. What is the meaning of quantitatively here? That means we need, I mean, it should be possible to test the non-functional requirements. So what are those non-functional? Sorry, what are those metrics? Okay, please write down this. Okay, table metrics for specifying the non-functional requirements. Number one, speed. Okay, the second one is size. The third one is ease of use. Fourth one, reliability. Fifth one, robustness and portability. So what is the speed here? How to measure this? Right side column you see processed transactions per second, user or event response time, screen refresh time. See, this is the speed. So this is one metric. Correct. Now, what is metric here? Nothing but, so we are going to measure or we are going to specify non-functional requirement quantitatively, because I should be able to, test the non-functional requirements. Correct. No. So one metric is speed. How many transactions can be processed per second? Okay. What is the screen refresh time, etc. What about size? The next metric. Okay, you see that measure is nothing but say megabytes. Okay, the number of ROM chips, etc. What is the property? Ease of ease. Okay, training time and number of help frames. Okay, training time. So because when I say usability, okay, training has to be provided to the end users, because they are going to use the system. Okay, training has to be provided. Reliability. How to measure that? Mean time to failure, probability of unavailability, okay, rate of failure, of course, availability. When I say reliability, what is the meaning here is that the system should be reliable. Okay, so you are going to find out the probability of unavailability. What is unavailability here? Okay, when the say system becomes unavailable for use. Okay, so when it is not available, so naturally reliability comes into picture. Correct. No? So you may not be able to rely on the software. Correct. No? That means even if the system fails, okay, for example, you should be able to recover or you should be able to reuse the system, say maybe within say 15 minutes. Okay, you specify the time limit. Okay, so that is about reliability. What do you understand by robustness? Time to restart after failure, percentage of the events causing failure, probability of data corruption on failure. So that is about the robustness. Okay, after failure, how much time it will take to restart? Okay, how many events are will cause failure? Okay, what is the probability of data corruption on failure? If the failure occurs, what is the probability what how of that data will be corrupted? So this is the part of the robustness. And the last one is portability. What is the meaning of portability? You know, the percentage of the target dependent statements. Okay, so one statement may be, if you are making changes to one say module, it may have an adverse effect on the other module. Okay, or that's what we call it as coupling actually. Okay, one module dependent on another modules. Okay, so if you make changes to one module, naturally other modules also will get affected, correct? So what are the target systems? Okay, so this is, please remember, okay, this is an important topic there. What are the metrics for specifying non-functional requirements? Speed, size, ease of use, reliability, robustness, and portability. I hope so I have made it very clear. Fine. Already I mentioned about the domain requirements. Okay, when I functional requirements, non-functional requirement. So let us also mention the third one. We call it as the domain requirements. It is simple one. Domain requirements. Okay. Generally, if it is not satisfied, the system may be unworkable. Okay, the system's operational domain imposes requirements on the system. For example, a train control system has to take into account the braking characteristics in different weather conditions, correct? Now, so this is purely with respect to the particular domain what we are speaking, correct? Now, so train control system, so we have to consider, okay, the braking characteristics in different weather condition. In different weather condition, okay, the braking characteristics may not be same, correct? No, so in summer season you see, in the rainy season you see, okay, you see, I mean, what is that requirement has to be satisfied, okay, in the train control system, correct? No, so what is the characteristic, braking characteristic? Okay, so that we again varies purely on the particular domain. Okay, so anyway, that is small about the domain requirements. So we have totally three classifications. Okay, so functional, non-functional, domain requirements. Okay, so he has given the example of train protection system. Okay, the you know so he has given an example. Okay, it is difficult for a non-specialist to understand implications of this, how it interacts with other requirements. Okay, so only the a person expertise in the train control system will be able to learn this formula. Okay, she has written a formula. Okay, the deceleration of the train shall be computed as d train equal to d control plus d gradient. Okay, so this is one requirement. Okay, so we may not be able to understand because we are not dealing with this, correct? So that's what he has mentioned. Non-specialist may not understand this formula. Okay, so that is about the one small domain requirements for a train protection system. Okay, okay, now uh, what are the problems of domain requirements? Understandability and implicitness. Okay, why? Because the domain specialists understand the area so well that they do not think of making the domain requirements explicit, and requirements are expressed in the language of the application domain, so generally not understood by the software engineers. Okay, so understandability is the one problem in domain requirements. Why? Because the software engineer may not understand the system. Okay, because the requirements are expressed in the language of the application domain. So I give the example of the train protection system. So this formula is given. Okay, this formula is can be understand maybe can be understood by a, say for example, a automobile engineer. Okay, may not be able to understand, or may not a software engineer may not understand this particular formula, correct me? So this is the problem. Understandability is the one problem because it is generally written in the language of the application domain, correct? So for other peoples it becomes difficult, correct, no, who are going to develop the system, correct? So that is the actually what we call as the domain requirements. Purely related to the purely comes from the particular domain. Okay, the previous example it is purely related to the train protection system. Correct. So it is a domain requirement. Okay, when to the braking characteristic. Okay, this one braking characteristic. Okay, so he has written one formula here. So this may not be understood by a software engineer. Okay. So that is all about the three types of the requirements. They call it as functional requirements, non-functional requirements, and the domain requirements. Okay. Now having studied this, okay, so we'll continue. Okay, in the same chapter. Okay, remember we are not in different chapter. We are in the fourth chapter only. Okay, first module is somewhat lengthy. Okay, please go through the topics. Okay, I'll have this interactive session. Okay, once I finish this. Okay, like in last class how we had. Okay, so now we'll continue with the same. The next topic called it as a software requirements document. Okay, same chapter. Okay, it's a continuation. Software requirements document. Okay, so generally they call it as SRS. Okay, so it is what it is. It is the official statement of what is required of the system developers. Okay, so what it is software SRS document, it is an official statement of what is required of the system developers. Okay, should include both the definition of user requirements as well as system requirements. Remember, it is not a design document. It should set what the system should do rather than how it should do it. So there is no question of how to achieve the requirements. So the only thing is what is mentioned is what are the requirements you have expected, what you are expecting from the system. Okay, so we call it as a software requirements specification document. We can abbreviate it as SRS. Okay, software requirement specification. Okay, so it is most important when an outside contractor is developing the software system. As I told, okay, so you are giving the software development work to a third party. Okay, so correct no. So the third party should be very clear with the requirements. Correct no. So one side we have the client. Correct no. One side we have the developer, correct no. So the client may be the bank and the other side may be the developer, correct, maybe a software company who is or which is going to develop the software for the bank, correct no. So client and other side we have the developer, correct no. So for the developer what is most important is the requirements document, because you should clearly understand. Okay, remember, and it should be official. So that's why it is written that it is a official statement of what is required. Okay, because see what will happen is that during the requirement elicitation process we are going to discuss, okay, what will happen. Okay, different types of the users will come with different opinions. So you have to collect those, you have to put it together, and you have to consolidate it, and you have to find out what is valid, what is invalid. Okay, so if the requirements are not valid, we have to discard it. Correct no? So once everything is clear, then you put it in a document. So that document we call it as a software requirements specification document. Fine. Okay. Uh, Now we'll move on to the anyway, agile methods. We'll come to later. Okay, who are the users of the requirements document? Okay, so this is again a topic to be discussed. You see the table there. Okay, so uh, system customers, you have the managers, we have the system engineers, we have the system test engineers, and system maintenance engineers, right? Okay. Okay, so let us continue. Uh, so what are the different types of the requirements? Users, who are the users of the requirements document? See, uh, the first one is uh, the system customers. Okay, then we have the managers here. Then we have the system engineers are there, system test engineers, and system maintenance engineers. Okay. uh, so what the system customers? Okay, so they specify the requirements and read them to check that they meet their needs. Okay, customers specify changes to the requirements. Okay, the other one we have the managers. Okay, so uh, managers use the requirements document to plan a bid for the system. Okay, and to plan system development process. Okay, the system engineers, okay, use the requirements to understand what system is to be developed. System test engineers use the requirements to develop validation test for the system maintenance engineers. So they use the requirements to understand the system and the relationship between its parts. That means what you see that different types of the users we have, they analyze the document in a different way. System customers, correct? No, they specify changes to the requirement. Managers, why, what they use, say they use this document to plan a bid for the system and to plan for the system development process. Engineers, they use the requirements to understand what system is to be developed. System test engineers use the requirements to develop validation test for the system. Whereas maintenance engineers, they use the requirements to understand the system and the relationship between its parts. So that means what I want to inform here is that so we have different types of the users. You can see from the table. Okay, the level of the detail we should include in a requirement document will depend on the type of the system that is being developed and the development process used. Okay, who is the user? Okay, his requirement, correct, no, may be different. A customer requirement may be different, managers requirement may be different, engineers requirement may be different. That means what, remember, we do not, will not be having multiple copies of the requirements. What we are having is that we will be having only uh, uh, one copy of the requirements document. But only thing is that how the requirement document is perceived, correct, no, is analyzed from different angles by different people is different, correct, no. So maintenance engineers, what they look is different. Okay, their perception is different. The testing people perception is different, correct, no, because they have to develop validation test for the system. As I told, okay, after the requirements are collected, we are going to develop the system. Okay, after that the system has to be validated, correct, no. So who has to be doing this? The testing people, correct, no. So how the testing people, so they need the requirements document. Why? Because they have to cross check, okay, what was expected and whether what is the output, correct, no? Because if you specify that this is the input and this is the output, okay, in the requirements document, when the software is developed, they need to cross check that whether it is really met or not. So that is what we call it as. So I hope you understand. I understood my point here. Okay, we have a single requirements document, but who are going to read that, who are going to go through that requirement document are different people, and their perception is different, correct, no? Customer perception is different. Engineers, testing people take it in other way. Okay, managers take it in other way, correct, because manager has to plan for the software development. Remember, manager is not going to test the software. It's only as a manager, okay, his intention is to, or his aim is to plan a bid for the system. Correct. He has to plan the development process. Remember, correct. He's not going to test the system, nor he's going to develop the system. Correct. No, that means what? Different types of the users are there, and they take it. They go through the requirement document and collect the information in a different way. So that means what? Interpretation will be different for different types of the people. Okay, so this is all about uh, the users of the requirement document. Fine. That is the standard format has been prescribed. They call it as IEEE standard. Okay, so mostly applicable to the requirement for large systems engineering projects. Okay, so I'm going to specify what is the IEEE format for specifying the requirements. Fine, so we'll do it. I will go through that. Okay, now, okay, so now, structure of the requirements document. So this is what I'm going to tell. Remember, this is very important. Okay, the structure of the requirements document as per the IEEE standard. Okay, so it will be asked in the examination. Okay, so I'll discuss this. Okay, so before starting this, let me have a small break, and let me interact with the previous class discussions. Okay, then we'll go ahead. Okay, so let me okay, Wilbin Varghese is the Wilbin Varghese, Wilbin. Swastik Rao, Swastik Rao, Swastik Rao is not there. Suchitra Nayak, Suchitra Nayak, Suchitra Nayak is not there. Sri Chandan,
Yes, sir.
yeah, okay, okay,
Yes, sir.
Suchitra, yes, yeah, Suchitra, okay. Uh, okay, last class also we had some interactive discussions. Okay, so we discussed some of the models in the
Yes.
last classes. Okay, Suchitra. Okay, so what are the types of the testing? What is actually software
Yes,
validation?
sir.
Yeah, what you understand by software validation? What you understand by software validation? Hmm? What do you understand by validation, software validation? Suchitra, are you there? Okay, Sri Chandan, fine. Sri Chandan.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, what are the what is software validation, and what are the different types of the testing?
Validation is checking, sir. Checking
Checking
the
what?
system
Checking what? Checking the
process, software process,
software process.
system,
Okay, okay. What are the different types of the testing we have?
component testing,
Which one? Component testing. Okay.
System testing.
Okay.
Acceptance testing.
Acceptance testing. Okay. What is alpha testing and beta testing? What is alpha testing and beta testing?
Don't know, sir.
Don't know. Okay. So, who will give me the answer for alpha testing versus beta testing? Jainul is there. Jainul Abidin. Jainul Abidin. Halima Azwina. Halima Azwina. Are you there? Halima Azwina. Meghana S.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Can you differentiate between alpha testing and beta testing?
Sir, alpha testing it's developed for a single client.
Alpha?
Alpha testing is nothing but here the customer systems are developed only for a single client. Whereas beta testing itself, the system is marketed to whole software.
Okay, actually, what is alpha testing? I have told here. Okay, it is generally two forms of acceptance testing. Actually, okay, I have shared that material also. Okay, we are going to test the software for acceptance, correct? But alpha, it can be done in two levels, alpha and beta. Alpha is generally done what? Okay, generally it is not done in the on the client side. Okay, so it will be taken by the team of testers, okay, who have the set of test plans. Okay, whereas beta testing is nothing but it is done in the client location with the real users, correct, who are going to use the system. Okay, who will actually who are going to work with the system, those people will test the system. So beta testing will give you a clear picture of whether the software is reliable, whether the software is acceptable. So that's why in that term it is acceptance testing only. So alpha testing is done at the developer's site, remember this everybody, whereas beta testing is done at the client's location. Okay, because the developer is somewhere, client is somewhere, correct? No, for example, bank is the client, correct? No, so the beta testing is taken at the client location, yes or no? So this is how the variation will take place of acceptance testing versus, I mean, alpha testing versus beta testing. Okay, now, okay, what is okay, next one, let me ask okay, is this Muhammad Mufiz is there? Muhammad Mufiz. Muhammad Mufiz, not there. Dheeraj, Dheeraj, Chetan, Chetan.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you differentiate between prototyping model and incremental model?
What, sir?
Can you differentiate between prototyping approach and incremental delivery?
I think
Okay, let me ask, what is the change avoidance and change tolerance?
so prototyping model is the model or sample
Uh,
which is built to test a concept
okay.
or process.
Uh, what is the change avoidance here and the change tolerance? Two approaches I mentioned. Okay, change avoidance is done through prototyping model. change tolerance is generally done through incremental approach. Okay. No idea. Okay, leave it. We studied in the previous classes spiral model. Okay, spiral model. Remember that. So Aisha, Susanna. Aisha, Susanna is there. Ahmad Rafi. Ahmad Rafi.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What is the spiral model? What is this approach of software development?
Hello.
Yeah, can you hear me? Can
Sir,
you hear me? What is spiral model? Spiral model.
it's very influential in helping people.
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, spiral model. What is the approach here? Why it is called spiral model? Okay, leave it fine.
Hello.
Let me continue discussing the next topic. Then after some time again we'll have some interaction. Okay, the structure of the requirements document I'm going to show you. Okay, please remember it is very important. Okay, IEEE standard. Okay, so please go through this. Okay, with the format given, you see that it starts with the preface. Okay, the preface is nothing but it will define the expected readership of the document and its version history. Okay, the next thing is that introduction part. Okay, you please go through this. Okay, this table is there. Okay, but remember that point, so because you have to follow the same format here. Okay, preface, introduction part. Okay, so this will describe the need for the system, what are the functions, how it will work with other systems. Okay, glossary, what is glossary? Technical terms used in the document. That means what? When you write a requirement document, you should have a proper format, correct? No? So that format is given to you. Okay, I hope you can see the screen. Okay, the preface, then we have the introduction part, then we have the glossary, then we have the user requirements definition. Okay, what you are going to describe here? The services provided for the user. Okay, so the non-functional system requirements should also be described. Okay, then system architecture. Okay, high level overview of the anticipated system architecture, showing the distribution of the functions. Next, we have system requirement specification. So we are going to describe functional and non-functional requirements in more detail. Then we have the models. Okay, so because we need to include graphical models which show the relationship between the system components. Okay, so we are going to I'm going to show you. Okay, the requirements also can be stated graphically. Okay, the one way of representing the requirements is in natural language. Okay, but as you are using the natural language, that is English. Okay, that may be always lead to ambiguity. So what is the best method is that you represent in the form of models, object models, so data flow models, etc. Then system evolution part. So this will describe the assumptions on which the system is based and any anticipated changes due to the hardware evolution and changing user needs and so on. Then the last two part, index and appendices. So you have to here it will provide the detailed specific information that is related to the application being developed. For example, hardware database descriptions. Okay, whereas index, we need to have a normal alphabetic index. Okay, or index of diagrams. Okay, so please remember that what is this format. Okay, the structure of the requirements document. The IEEE format. So generally they will ask in the exam, give the structure of the requirements document as per the IEEE standard. So so we have to mention this in the same format. Okay, preface, then we have the introduction, then we have the glossary, then we have the user requirements definition, system architecture, system requirement specification, system models, system evolution, then the last two parts. Okay, generally appendix and index. Fine. So this is about the structure. So remember, what we are discussing is the requirements specification. That is the software requirements document. Now the next process what we are going to discuss is the requirement specification. How we are going to write the specify the requirements. Okay, so the process of writing down the user and system requirements in a requirement document is, we call it as requirement specification. Okay, the process of writing down the user as well as system requirements. So there is a process is there. So what is that process? We'll see that. Okay, so generally user and system requirements should be clearly understood, that is unambiguous and easy to understand, complete and consistent. Okay, why? Because it, but again it will be difficult because the stakeholders interpret the requirements in different way. So this is the basic problem of the requirements collection which I had told. Okay, the interpretation of the requirements will be different by different stakeholders, correct? No, so naturally this will lead to ambiguity, correct? No, but what is the our goal of the requirement specification is that it should be clear, unambiguous, easy to understand, complete and consistent. Okay, so this is most important. Okay, it should be complete, it should be consistent, easy to understand, unambiguous and clear. Okay, so this is the what our goals of. Okay, this is the expected goals of writing the requirements. Okay, so but naturally, as I mentioned, there is always a possibility that your the requirements will be ambiguous. Why? Because different people will be understanding in different way. Okay, because the user requirements have to be understandable by end users and customers who do not have a technical background. Okay, whereas the system requirements are more detailed requirements and will include technical information. So generally user requirements will have less technical background or information, whereas system requirements will be having more technical information, because the type of the people who are going to go through this is different, correct? No? So that is why user requirements has to be understandable by the end users, whereas the system requirements are generally used by, or it is be used by the technical people, correct? So that is about the requirement specification. Okay, so this is we have told in the beginning, system requirement versus user requirement, correct? No, so user requirements is abstract statements, system requirements are more abstract, more detailed statements of the requirements. So that is the two classification of the requirements. Now the question comes is, okay, how to write these requirements. Okay, so how to specify the requirements. Okay, so user requirements are generally written in the natural language. What is this natural language? It is nothing but your English. Okay, but system requirements can also be written in natural language. But the problem is that, as I mentioned, the natural language, that is your English language, it always leads to ambiguity. Why? Because the interpretation problems will come when you write in your natural language. Okay, so what is the solution? What is the solution is that you specify, you go for the notational approach. Okay, you see here. Okay, what we are discussing is that we started discussing requirement Then the two types of the requirements, user requirement and system requirements. Then we discussed the concept of uh, what the classification of the requirements, namely product requirements, organizational requirement, and external requirements. Then we discussed the various metrics. Okay. After that, now we discussed the standard format for specifying the requirements. So, having discussed this, now what we are discussing is that how to specify the requirements. Okay, the most common method of writing the system requirements is natural language. It is written there. Okay, each sentence should express one requirement. But remember, as I mentioned, natural language will always leads to ambiguity. So what we'll do, we'll go for the why? Because the misunderstanding will be more when you use natural language to express the requirements. Okay, so uh, actually some standard formats or some what is that? Some guidelines have been proposed. Okay, that means use text highlighting. Okay, wherever possible, try to associate a rational with each user requirement. Okay, because generally user requirements are written in natural language only, that is English. But still, when you use English also, uh, the guidelines say that you follow a standard format. Okay, use the language consistently to distinguish between mandatory and desirable requirement. You know that some requirements will be mandatory and some requirements will be what desirable. I hope you got the difference between the mandatory versus desirable requirements. Correct? No? All requirements are not mandatory. Some requirements are mandatory. Correct? No? So also use highlighting, that is bold, italic, or color, etc. Okay. So wherever you possible, you follow or try to associate a rational. So that is about the user requirements. Fine. Now the question is the we are going moving towards the how to write the system requirements other than natural language. What is the, we call it a structured natural language. Please see the table. The second one is written there. Okay, structured natural language. What is the structured natural language? It is a way of writing system requirements where the freedom of requirement writer is limited and all the requirements are written in a standard way. So less freedom is given to the requirement writer. Okay, so it should be written in a standard way. Okay, that is most expressiveness and understandability. Okay, so we are going to discuss. I'll be giving the examples for that. Okay, so that is about the structured natural language. Okay, natural language only, English only, but it is a structured. That is a standard form or template. The third one you see, design description languages, like a programming language, but with more abstract features to specify the requirements by defining an operational model of the system. Okay. Now, fourth one, graphical notations. Okay, so we are going to make use of the graphical models to express the requirements. UML, Unified Modeling Languages, use case diagrams, sequence diagrams, etc. We will be studying in the module number 2 that. Okay, so graphical notations and mathematical specifications such as a finite state machine or a set. Okay, so but generally problem is that the customers will not understand a formal specification, because a ordinary customer will find this type of notations difficult. Okay, so these are the some what the different way of writing the system requirements. Okay, one method is natural language. The second method is called structured natural language. The third one is design description languages. Fourth one is graphical notations. Okay. Uh, The next one is mathematical specifications. Okay, so each one has its own advantage and its own disadvantages. So please remember this discussion. Okay, how to write or what are the different ways of writing the system requirements. Fine. Okay, after having studied this, so let me move to the because I'll show this. Okay, natural language specification. Okay. Uh, because requirement should state what the system should do and the design should describe how it does. Okay, remember, requirements and design, okay, are two different phases but they are inseparable. Requirements will focus on what and design will focus on how. Please remember this point. Okay, requirements will focus on how, I mean, sorry, what the system should do, and the design will describe how it does this. Okay, but they are inseparable. Okay, we cannot say that they are totally two different phases. They are interoperable. Okay, interleaved things. Okay, so natural languages, okay, already I mentioned, okay, requirements are written as a natural language sentences. Okay, uh, it can be well understood by the users and customers. But only problem is that the ambiguity issues will come, because our major intention is that the requirements expressed should be what requirements expressed are unambiguous, clear, easy to understand, complete, and consistent. But when you use natural language, what will happen is that, okay, the understandability issues will come. Okay, ambiguity issues will come. That means what? Depending on the background of the user. Okay, so as I told, okay, I may interpret in one way, the second person may interpret in another way. So this is the major problem of the okay, and this already I mentioned how to write the requirements. Invent a standard format. Okay, use language in a consistent way. Differentiate between mandatory and desirable requirements. Use text highlighting. Okay, bold, color, italic, etc. Avoid the use of computer jargon. Okay, don't use technical terms. Okay, and include explanation of why a requirement is necessary. This is what we call as rational. Why a requirement is necessary. So that is, you need to explain that. That is nothing but the rational. Problems with the natural language. Okay, already we discussed it. Lack of clarity. Precision is difficult. Requirements of confusion. Functional, non-functional requirements get mixed up, and requirements amalgamation. Different requirements may be expressed together. So these are the problems with the natural languages. Okay, so for that, what we do is we go for the see, this is an example of a what type of requirements stated in the natural language. Okay, I hope you see that screen. Okay, it's a requirement. It is written in natural language in your English, but easy to understand for a common user. But it may be confusing and it may be interpreted in different way by different people. Correct? No? So this is because it is written in a natural language. So what is the alternate solution? You go for a structured specification. You go for a structured specification. Okay, so as I mentioned, the freedom of requirements writer is limited and the requirements are written in a standard way. Okay, so example is form based specification. I'll show that. Okay, form based specification. So it will have uh, a description of the function or entity being specified, description of the inputs and where they come from, description of the outputs and where they go, information about the information needed for the computation, description of the action to be taken, functional approach, setting what must be true before the function is called, and post condition what must be true after the function is called, and side effects. So this is what we call as the form-based specification. I'll show that one example. We have the structured specification. Okay, so uh, you see this. Okay, the tabular format you see here. Okay, you see this. Okay, so it is written in the tabular format. Okay, so say for example, sugar level falling. Okay, what is the action to be taken? Sugar level stable, what is the action? Sugar level increasing. Okay, sugar level increasing and the rate of increase is stable or increasing, you see. Okay, so one small example it is shown there. Okay, so that means what? It is a tabular specification of computation for a insulin pump. Okay, so you see that it is easy to understand. Why? Because you have the it is written in a better way, correct? So for the most common approach is the natural language. Okay, when you use the common your English, this one. Okay, but the next form we call it as the tabular specification. Okay, you see that. Okay, what are the we have the when we use this, when we want to define number of alternative courses of action. See, for example, this example, insulin pump test basis rate of change of blood sugar level, and the tabular specification explain how to calculate the insulin requirement for different scenario. So condition, action, you see it is a tabular specification of the computation of the insulin pump. Okay, so the same thing can be expressed in the form of a structured specification. Okay, so yeah. Please wait. Okay. I hope you are able to see the screen. Are you able to see the screen? Anybody please mention. Are you able to see the screen? Students, can you see the screen? Yes, okay. See, I'm showing this, okay? The specific requirement specification. The one is the, I told the very simplest method what we are having is the natural language specification, okay? So you see here, okay? So it is the in the form of a table. It is written there, okay? So the you have the table 4 4.9. Okay, so the requirements for the insulin pump, correct? No, so it is given there. uh, so that is the two requirements we have. Okay, two examples it is. Okay, fine. So this is a natural language specification, requirement specification, correct? No, the next type of what we are having is called as, what I showed you is a tabular specification is this one. Okay, so you see that. Okay, requirements are specified in the form of a table. Okay, so we have left side condition and other side we have what is the action to be taken. One more is there. Okay, what I told, okay, we call it as a structured specification. See, this is what structured specification. Okay, so what it will have, it is also looking like a natural language, English only. You see that it is also making use of the English language only, sentences only, but it is a structured. When you compare it with, I hope you can see the screen. Okay, when you compare with this table, okay, it is pure English. Okay, nothing more than that. But this is what we call a natural language specification. The second one, what I wanted to show you is that structured natural language specification. This is also natural language only, but only thing is that it is more structured. Okay, you can see this. Okay, I told this. Okay, a description of the function being specified. Okay, a description of the inputs, a description of the outputs. You see here inputs, what is the source, what is the outputs, what is the destination, what is the action to be taken. Okay, precondition, post condition. What is precondition here? What has to be true before the function is called. Post condition is nothing but what is to be true after the function is called. So this is what we call as a structured natural language specification. Please remember this. Okay, so natural language specification. The next one we have the structured natural language. When I say structured natural language, this is also making use of the English language only, but the only difference is that it is more structured. And the third one, of course, already I showed you, it is nothing but the tabular specification. Correct, no? So it will give you a better representation of the requirement. Immediately by looking at the table, you can analyze the requirements. Correct, no? But you see that only thing is that the level of understandability. Correct, no? A common user may not understand this table actually, but a common user will understand the first one. Correct, no? There is a natural language specification. So please try to differentiate the natural language specification, structured natural language, and we have what we call as the uh, um, tabular specifications. Okay, so please remember this. Okay, how to specify the requirements. It was not there, so I had to move to that particular one. It is okay. So that is about the requirement specification method. Okay, fine. Now we will go to the requirement. Next topic is requirement engineering process. So before that, let me take again and have an interactive session. Okay, just now whatever the topics we discussed. Okay, so Pratham Shetty, are you there? Pratham Shetty.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, no, let me discuss the topics. Let me go through the topics what we discussed. What are the two types of the requirements? What are the two types of the requirements? I mean, what is the classification? Fourth chapter, we were discussing requirements engineering. In the beginning, I defined what is requirement. Okay. Then I defined the two types of the requirement. What is that two types of requirement? No answers. Okay, Narmeen is that? Narmeen.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, can you tell me what are the two types of the requirements?
Functional requirement and non-functional requirement.
No, that is later, but at the in the beginning. Okay, so the broad classification we have. I have two types of requirement.
User requirement and system requirement.
System requirement. What is user requirement?
The client manages system and end users and the users, whatever are the users requirements.
What about system requirement then?
Software development, like they are all systems required.
Okay. Okay. Then you mentioned no three classification: functional, then
Functional and
What is functional requirement?
services that should be provided for the function, input and how the system behaves.
Okay, what about non-functional requirement?
Timing constraints and all the development and standards.
Timing,
Constraints,
timing constraints. Okay. Uh,
functions offered by the system.
it is okay. Yeah, timing constraints. Okay, means basically it is with respect to the performance. Generally, we call it as correct now.
Yeah.
Say maybe security is there, or we have reliability is there. See, this is all about the performance. Correct now, not about how the system is functioning. Correct now, functional means what? Whatever you have mentioned, whether the system will behave as it is mentioned, correct now? Yes or no? So
Yes.
that is all correct now. So you are going to specify my system is going to work like this, correct now? In the end, okay, your system should behave in the same way. So that is your the functioning of the system, correct now? Whereas the non-functional generally deals with okay, not about this one, it deals about say non-functional, correct? Fault tolerance, whether you are correct, what is the uh, meantime failure, okay, even if the system fails, so within how much time you can recover the system, correct now? Okay, whether the data will be corrupted, okay, if the data is yes or no? So what about the security, whether it is reliability is there, okay, memory requirements are there. So this is all about the non-functional, correct, not speaking about the functioning of the system, but the other characteristics, correct? Naturally you expect that the system has to be reliable, correct now? You expect
Mhm.
that the system is secure, correct now? So this is all coming under the other category, call it as non-functional requirements. Okay, what about domain requirements? Any idea?
Constraints on the system
Ah,
from domain of
okay,
application.
okay, okay. Consent on this. Okay, fine. Thank you. Nikhil is there? Nikhil H. Nikhil. Nikhil is not there. Nitish Prabhu is there. Nitish Prabhu. Nitish Prabhu.
Yes, sir.
What are the metrics for specifying non-functional requirements?
Sir.
What are the metrics for specifying non-functional requirements?
No, no idea, sir.
No idea. I have mentioned today's class only how to specify the non-functional requirement, how to measure the. See, once I specify the requirement, I should have proper way of what measuring this requirement. Correct? No. So whether the correct no. So quantitatively correct. I should be able to find out whether this requirement is met or not. So what are that the metrics? We don't know.
Uh,
Yes.
speed, property, and measure.
Yes, yes, speed. Next.
Uh, Size.
Okay, next.
Uh, Probability.
It is not probability, portability.
Portability. Sorry, sir.
Okay, next.
Uh, uh,
Reliability,
Reliability.
ease of
Uh,
use,
uh,
ease of
you,
use, and robustness.
robot.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Welcome,
So,
welcome, sir.
yeah, okay. Let me ask. Okay, okay. Who is this? Okay. Rifa is there. Rifa A.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Can you tell me the format for writing down the structure? I mean, requirement document. Can you just tell me the format structure? IEEE standard.
Mm. System customers.
What? No, standard format.
Preface.
Yes.
Introduction.
Yes.
Glossary.
Yeah.
User requirement definition and system architecture.
Only that much. Nothing else.
Yes.
Next is there no continuation. You told only about architecture. The next is what? The system requirement specification, system models, system evolution, and the last two things, the appendix and index.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so please remember this, the structure of the requirement document. Okay, so fine, thank you. Okay, so what are the different, okay, thank you. Okay, what are the different ways of writing the system requirements? Okay, okay, Neha is there? Neha Shiramagond. Neha is there? Neha is not there. Yes. Okay. What are the different ways of writing system requirements? Just the latest topic we discussed. Okay. What are the different way in which the requirement can be specified? Because I should have proper method to specify the requirements. No answers?
So no idea, sir.
Okay. No, just now I topic that I discussed. That is why I asked. Okay. What are the different take? I mean, anybody else? Okay. Abin is there? Abin?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Tell.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What are the different ways?
Writing in graphical.
Okay. What is the first method? The three things. Okay. What is the first one?
Natural language. Writing in natural language.
Natural language. What is natural language here?
Like English, normal English.
Okay. Okay. Ordinary English. Then the next format is what?
Structured language.
Structured natural English. Okay. So, and one more?
Graphical.
Okay. Actually, five are there: natural, structured, then design description languages, then graphical notations, and mathematical specifications. Correct. So, what I showed you is that the three examples in a natural language. Then we have in a structured way how to represent. You see here. Okay, this is a structured natural language. The third one, what I showed you is a tabular specification. Correct. No? So it depends. Correct. No? So okay, so that is all about the requirements specification. Okay, so we'll continue with the next topic, that is called the requirement engineering process. Okay, uh, so what is the requirement engineering process? Already I mentioned. Okay, so here uh, it is the focus is on assessing if the system is useful to the business. Okay, then discovering the requirements, because in the beginning I mentioned. Okay, so it includes generally the feasibility study. Okay, feasibility study, requirement engineering process diagram I have showed you. Okay, so the first thing is that feasibility study, then how to discover the requirements. Okay, then how to specify the requirements. Correct. No, so we are mentioning the requirements, document. Correct. No? So what are the general activities which are common to all the processes? Nothing but requirements elicitation, requirement analysis, then requirements validation, and requirements management. Okay, so the requirement engineering process. Okay, the people involved, there will be many people involved. Correct. No? So they are generally interleaving. Okay, so it is organized as an iterative process around a spiral. Okay, so I will show you the diagram, the spiral model here. Okay, of yeah, you can see here. I'll maximize this. Okay, you see this. Okay, this is a spiral view of the requirement engineering process. Okay, so you see here the first part. You see that the requirement elicitation, okay, and analysis. Okay, we have the requirements discovery is there. Okay, then we have what we call as uh, requirement. Next, we have, of course, the different types of the requirements elicitation techniques. Then we have the validation technique is there. Okay, management is there. Requirement management is there. Okay, you see this the spiral model there. Okay. Uh, Okay, so what we are going to discuss now is with respect to the process model of elicitation and analysis, correct? No? Requirement elicitation and analysis. So that we'll discuss later actually. So before that, okay. So what I wanted to show you here, you see here, okay. The analysis model. This is the same thing what I showed you here. Okay. 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 So this diagram I wanted to show you here. Okay. Requirements elicitation and analysis. Okay. Anyway, we'll so briefly discuss about requirement elicitation and analysis. So you see that initially the feasibility study will be conducted, correct? So the next stage will start now. We call it as requirement engineering process. Okay, so this is nothing but the requirement elicitation and analysis. See the diagram properly. So what actually this activity will take place? The software engineers are going to work with the customers and end users to find out the application domain, what services the system has to provide, and the performance of the system. That means what? The functional, non-functional requirements. Correct? No. So the elicitation and analysis, okay, will involve different types of the people. We call them as a stakeholder. Correct? No. Who is having direct or indirect influence on the system requirement. Remember, okay, we call them as a stakeholder. Okay, a stakeholder is nothing but a person who should have some direct or indirect influence. Correct? Either it can be a direct person or it can be indirect. Okay, so it will include the end users. Okay, the managers are there, engineers are there, business managers are there. Okay, domain experts will be there, and representatives will be there. Okay, so you see the process model there. Okay, it's like a spiral model. Okay, so it will having 4 steps there. Okay, we call it as requirements discovery. Next is requirements classification and organization. Okay, next is requirements prioritization and negotiation, and requirements specification. Correct? No? So each one we will be discussing in detail. Okay, so please remember the requirements elicitation and analysis process. It is having 4 steps there. Activities are there. Discovery. Each one I'm going to take in detail. Okay, so requirement discovery. Next is the classification. Next is the prioritization. Fourth one is the specification. Okay, so discovery is nothing but what? Discovery is nothing but the process of interacting with the stakeholders to discover the requirements. Okay, I told the use the term called stakeholder. Who is stakeholder here? A person who is having direct or indirect influence on the system requirements. So what is the first process here is discovery here. So how to means what? It is a process of interacting with the stakeholders to discover the requirements. We'll take it in detail. The requirements classification, correct? No. See, once the requirements are gathered, so we need to classify that. We need to group the related requirement, and we have to make into coherent clusters. Okay. Then we need to prioritize which is the which requirement is having more priority, which requirement is having less priority. So we have to analyze and we have to negotiate the requirements. Okay, we have to resolve the requirements conflicts. What will happen? Requirements will be having conflicts, so we need to resolve the conflicts. And the last one is nothing but the specification. Okay, we need to document and input the into the next round of the spiral model. Okay, so please try to take into consideration this spiral model. Okay, so the requirements elicitation and analysis process. Okay, please remember the 4 activity: requirement discovery. So here we are going to interact with the stakeholders to discover the requirement. Okay, different types of the requirement: functional, non-functional, domain requirement. The second step, you see that we need to classify the requirement. We need to organize the requirement into coherent clusters. The third one, you see that we need to we need to identify, okay, which is more important, which is less important. If the requirements are having conflict, we need to resolve that. Fine. And the last one, we call it as the requirement specification. Okay, where the requirements are documented. We need to document the requirements. Again, I told we need to follow the standard format. Okay, so this is the 4 activities of the requirement elicitation and analysis. The 4 different activities are there. Each one we are going to take it in detail. Okay, but before that, okay, one topic let me address. Okay, so this is already I told: requirement discovery, classification, prioritization, specification. Now one topic I will address, after that I will stop. Okay, so what are the reasons? Important topic here. Okay, there is a important question to be addressed. What is that question? The question is, understanding the requirement from the system stakeholder is very difficult process. Why? Question mark. Okay, what is the why? Eliciting and understanding the requirements from stakeholders is a difficult task. Why? Number one, see the points there. Stakeholders don't know what they want from the computer system. Stakeholders express the requirements in their own terms. Different stakeholders may express the requirements in their own terms, and they may have conflicting requirements. Organizational and political factors also influence the requirements, and the requirements change during the analysis process. There is the economic and business environment is dynamic. There is always a change. Correct? No? So naturally, what will happen? New stakeholders will emerge, and the business environment will change. Correct? No? So this is an important question to be addressed. Please remember, it is an important question. Okay, why the process of eliciting requirements and understanding is a difficult process? Why? Because okay, different stakeholders will have conflicting requirements, because each one is going to express the requirement in their own term, and some stakeholders may not know what they actually want. And you see that the requirement is always a dynamic. Okay, change is always a dynamic. Okay, now naturally what will happen? Okay, political factors are there. See, this is again important. Okay, political factors will have maximum influence on the system requirement. Correct? No? So it is always a possibility in an organization. Correct? No? So, and of course, so naturally what will happen? Okay, requirements will change, and new stakeholders may emerge, and the business environment may change. Okay, So what we discussed in the today's class, okay, requirement, what are the two types of the requirement, user requirement and system requirements, what are the three major classification of the requirements, namely functional, non-functional, domain requirements. Okay, we discussed how to, what are the metrics for specifying the non-functional requirements. Then we discussed about the requirement specification document, its structure, IEEE standard. Okay, then we discussed the different ways of specifying the requirements, natural language, structured natural language, tabular format, etc. And then we discussed the requirement elicitation and analysis process. So this will be continuing in the next classes. Okay, so let me generate the your attendance list. Okay, so let me conclude the meeting. Okay, so thank you all. Okay, so we'll meet in the next class. Okay, so I'll stop the recording here.